We are so saddened by the events that happened in Maui, the tragedy and the lives that were lost, and many who are still struggling because they don't know where their loved ones are.
But one of the things that we can learn from this is the importance of community, because members of the community in Maui stepped in when they were still waiting for government and local first responders to come. They actually band together and they rescued and saved lives. And I think that we can learn a lot about the importance of community. And so today we've enlisted the help of an expert to help us explore the different ways that we can work together as a community. So if an event like the wildfires in Maui happens near you, we'll be able to take care of each other.
Hey, Provident Preppers, I'm Kylene.
And I'm Jonathan. Today we are here with Nick Miller again. Thank you for coming back with us, Nick. We're excited to have you here, and we've got some great things we want to talk about. You had sent us a couple of bits of information about things happening in Maui, and this was a great opportunity for us to share with our audience your perspective on some things that we can do better when it comes to community.
Because community will make all the difference, right? We can't always wait for somebody to come save us. You know, there's not a knight in shining armor or a cavalry out there that's going to come save you. We've got to take care of each other because we are closest in proximity and we know the situation best. And we just really need to work on our community relationships and make sure that we're ready to take care of each other. And Nick is the perfect person to talk to us about that because he's got a degree in emergency management. He teaches emergency responders in the military how they need to respond, and he can just bring all of us together and help us be better prepared. So Nick, help us understand why we should care. What kind of situations have we seen recently, including Maui, that demonstrate the need for us to work together as a community?
Yeah, well, I sent those articles. They're just basic articles on CBS and the other national news because I remember in our first chat that we talked about how government can't quite respond fast enough and how the response is not quite what people envision it to be. And I think the one I sent you was a local talking about how they never saw that response. They kept waiting for the cavalry to arrive and the cavalry didn't arrive. And it just kind of stresses the importance of you're kind of in control of your destiny, and you working locally and taking care of yourself is going to move a lot faster than a large state or government agency is going to move. I think for a lot of people, it always happens, whether it's Maui or Hurricane Katrina or the floods, people are always, or even Texas last year, they're always surprised that the response isn't what they envision and it's not as fast as they would like it to be. So I just thought I'd show you that, just kind of reiterate that point, because these articles were interviewing people who were basically saying the same things that we had talked about previously. But right now, there's a lot of things going on. There's a hurricane heading to Florida. California dodged one a couple of weeks ago. Maui has these wildfires. There's always something going on with natural disasters somewhere.
Absolutely. So let's just start talking a little bit about the limitations of the government to be able to come in and help us. Because I think that the intent is actually really good, but we can't turn one paramedic into 50 paramedics, right? So talk to us a little bit about their limitations and help us understand why we can't depend on them.
You know, Maui is a unique situation because it's an island. So that just makes everything more difficult because that's be brought in by sea or plane. But don't be fooled, it's a large island. I looked it up and it's larger than the size of New Jersey. Put it in perspective. So there is places you can go. But anytime you have government, you have to deal with the different levels. There's the local level, the county, there's the state level, and there's the federal level. And there's a lot of laws about when the federal level can come in. There's the Stafford Act that basically says federal can't come until they get a request from the governor. So sometimes those take time. And anytime you have offices run by elected officials, there's always going to be a political play on whether I want to do that faster or slower. Like as you saw, I think I read an article today that Biden's already pre-greenlighted the emergency response for Florida. You know, hopefully they learn. But then you have to think about where those equipment and supplies are. How are you going to get those equipment and supplies to people? Even there are disaster action teams, both for USAR, urban search and rescue, and disaster medical action teams that can come. Again, they have to be activated and moved. And I know that there was an article the other day here in St. Louis where one of the fire chiefs is going to be a section head for the USAR response. They're sending some of the Missouri teams to Hawaii, particularly those with cadaver dogs. Those don't happen overnight. And you have to think about, especially in places where you have to fly them in or bring them in by boat, you have to arrange those logistics, and you have to hope that airport's open and it's ready to go. And just even on the local level, when you have something as big as a fire and everything gets destroyed, those supplies are going to take time to get there. So notwithstanding the all the other issues that can go wrong, from how experienced, how organized, and how credentialed those people are, or how good they are, or how much politics plays into play, just even in the best well-oiled machines, there is going to be a delay to ramp up and get those things going. Again, that you're prepared, the better you talk with your neighbors, and the better you have a plan, and the better you've prepared and created your layers of protection, that makes a difference from a natural disaster becoming an inconvenience to a true disaster.
Okay, so Nick, that's a really great point. And that all begins with us then. I mean, it has to begin with us. So what would you recommend that we do as individuals, as families, as our communities, as we're building them, to get to that point where we can respond?
It's a lot of the things you've been hammering over and over and over. Have a plan. Know in advance if you're going to have to, leave, or if you're going to do something, have a plan. Have your supplies ready to go. Talk to your neighbors and say, hey, what are we going to do? I mean, Katrina is a great example. You saw all the terrible disasters in Katrina, but what the news didn't show was the neighborhoods that worked together and took care of each other, because they weren't nearly as bad. So obviously they didn't get on TV, which to me is a good thing. Plan is critical. You have to, that all hazards plan we talked about, having all your ducks in a row, having your insurance, knowing where you're going to go if something goes wrong, knowing where you're going to get food if your house is destroyed, knowing these things in advance. This is where family, even at the family level, you can are you going to go to your brother or sister's house? Can you store stuff at your parents' house? Just these little ideas of, what am I going to do? Because time is on your side. You don't have a disaster every month, hopefully.
Okay, so one of the things that I was really impressed with were the grassroots efforts that took place. Just a regular person, a regular guy saying, hey, we've got a problem here and we can get together and help. So one of the examples was getting jet skis out and rescuing people from the ocean, right? That was, and it took somebody saying, you know what, I can make a difference. In order for that person to be able to do it, he's got to be able to recruit other people. And so I think working on those lines of communication now, and sometimes we think, we don't think about things that we already have in place, but even a Facebook page, right? A community Facebook page where you can assimilate information. If you've got a church that has a phone tree, man, can news spread like wildfire through a church phone tree, right? All of those different things that you may already have in place, it's good to fine tune them and kind of put on the lenses of, how could this be helpful in an emergency? Is there something that I need to change so that we can make sure that everybody that we have an accountability for is safe, and then we can reach out and we can help others? So that, I think communication is huge. And then when it comes to skills and knowledge, so we did kind of talk about this before, but what are the basic skills that you think everybody should have so that they can be self-sufficient as possible in an event, and then be able to help others? I know that for us, we've taken the CERT program, the Community Emergency Response Team program, several times, because you want to really build those skills. But it also gives me a good level of confidence that I have some basic skills. What do you think, Nick?
There's a lot of basic life skills, a lot of it you already have. You just don't realize you have it. Setting up, if you have to set up a temporary housing structure, you have that skill. It's called camping. Many people have gone out and set up a tent. The question is it organized? And do you know where you're going to go camp? And do you have all the stuff you need to stay there weeks versus a weekend? First aid or emergency medical responder is a great course to take. CERT's a great course to take. Self-defense courses, unfortunately, because the Ys had a lot of looting as well. being ready to handle that, because you're not going to have your house anymore in that case. So you have to think about those things, how you're going to be safe, self-awareness. You know, in the military, they call that head on a swivel, you know, looking around for dangers. Just simple skills. Can you cook your own meals? Because, you know, Hardee's and Chick-fil-A are burned down. So what are you going to do? Can you cook? How are you going to wash your clothes? You know, just these simple skills, resilience, this stuff that when my grandmother was growing up was normal.
And then the other aspect of this is the unique skills that people have, and knowing who has what skills and what equipment. So there's kind of both sides here of, you know, being individually prepared as we can, and then knowing who we can pull to or pull into our group because of skills or equipment or whatever they may have that can help the situation.
Oh, absolutely. Small groups help. You know, you're talking about Facebook. My local community has a Facebook page, and every time a dog's lost, it goes right up on the screen.
Yeah.
By the dog. And, you know, smaller groups, whether it be your neighborhood on the street or your church or whatever group of friends you hang out with. I know from my church group, I know who has a lot of land. I know who is the guy who can fix all the machines. I know who the medical people are. I know who, you know, are the guys in law enforcement. I know everything in my church. I know who to go to. But even on my street, I can go across the street to my neighbor. He's an owner operator of a semi truck. So if I have to leave in a hurry, we have a deal. Like if things go bad, he comes to my house. If we need to leave, I go to his house. So, you know, just talking about those things in advance and just thinking about little things. Like in Katrina, a lot of the guys in the areas that didn't get covered, they stood guard. That they would block off their streets and to keep looters out. So think about that. How can you protect your neighborhood? How can you protect your street? How do you avoid being ransacked? You know, just your family, your community, talking about that in advance. How do we protect our community? We lose a lot of stuff. You know, how do we do it? I mean, like when I lost power for 2 days last month in storms, I ended up cooking breakfast on my Coleman stove for, you know, about 10 people in the neighborhood because they didn't have power, but I had a Coleman stove and I'm making pancakes. So, you know, all the kids got to eat pancakes, so it worked out. So
it does. But those relationships have to be built now, right? And I think that's a really good point, because first of all, we want to know who should be in the neighborhood. If you don't know who your neighbors are, you don't know who belongs and who doesn't belong. But as we work together, we have such a better chance of a positive outcome, regardless of what the disaster is.
And you don't need to wait for a major disaster like Maui. You know, something as simple as power going out or just talking in advance and knowing what you're going to do. You could start with like a 4th of July party. That's a good way to meet your neighbors, you know?
Yeah. Hey, Labor Day's coming up, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I have friends that invite me to 4th of July, the whole street, chip in on fireworks and, you know, have a good time. So, you know, it doesn't have to be this, oh my God, the sky's falling. It could be, you know, just little incremental steps of getting to know people, looking next time you drive out of your house in the subdivision. How do I protect this area? Should I have a lot of people? How do I block this road off if I need to? How do I get out of here? Where am I going to go? Which relative likes me the most? Simple things like, and if I have a bridge that's collapsed and I can't go back home, who's my relative? Where's my place to go on this side? Where's my place to go north? You know, again, time is on your side. And if you still want to enjoy life and have fun, you got to do a little bit every day. Otherwise, you're cramming at the end, you know, just like studying, and then you're in trouble.
Hey, Nick, thank you so much for the information you provided for us and to our audience. Thank you for your counsel and your experience and the commitment you have to what you do. We so much appreciate all the good information that you provide. And now for the question of the day. What can you do this week to make progress in building your community and making your community more resilient? Comment below. And thanks for being part of the solution.